Well, we welcome you all to the Temple of Speed, the last dance in the International GT Open 2025 campaign, with 3 different classes in close championship contention and fights. It is going to be one remarkable ride. 16-degree air temperature, 72% humidity. The track temperature somewhat up this morning as we creep our way through the course of the weekend. As you can see, the fans flocking through into the grandstands as we are set to decide the titles here around a GT Open 500 endurance race. But first and foremost, we have got qualifying to kick things off. This is the championship leading contender. It is Levente Revesh's car, of course, alongside Max Gertz, but of course, it's been a combination of Gertz and Qualy accompanying Levente Revesh through the course of the season. But he leads the championship nonetheless on 123 points ahead of Christopher Haase and, of course, Simon Riker, who are together looking to become the first team to take back-to-back titles in the International GT Open. Could this be their weekend after what was a reasonable Barcelona round there? You could say they didn't necessarily capitalise on what could have been a huge opportunity. Elsewhere, others to watch, Tommaso Mosca and Carl Bennett, after a breakthrough final run of races since we reached the midway points of the campaign. They took back-to-back wins at both Paul Ricard and Red Bull Ring, and then in our most recent outing at Barcelona, their 3rd victory of the season. Will they be running on a crest of a wave, much like they did at Red Bull Ring, and go back-to-back once more? Anything can truly happen. We've had thrills and spills in the GT Open 500 in the past, much like earlier on this season back at Spa, where we saw Dean McDonald and James Kell, who looked to be the outright contenders for this championship this season, based on what we saw at Portimao. They had an unassailable lead when we made our way around the Belgian circuit until an electrical fault reared its ugly head and brought an early end to what looked to be an almost certain victory in that race. George Morgan here, your commentator. Alongside me once again this weekend is Chris Stevens.
Hello, George, and my goodness, we've been building up to this one since April, and I can't believe it's finally here. The weekend that is going to settle this epic championship fight. 4 cars in contention, 3 realistically. The elite motorsport pairing of Tom Empson and Tom Leben would need a bit of a miracle in order to bring this championship home, but they can still play a huge part in this weekend. We have got only 1 point separating the top 2 in the Pro-Am classification as well. So that's Aaron Walker and Steve Jans, who topped this morning's bronze test, just ahead of Valentin Pierberg and Dominic Baumann. So that's nice and easy for us to work out tomorrow. Whoever finishes ahead should take the title there. And in the AM Championship, it's only 6 points between Gino Forgione and Michele Rugelo's AF Corsa Ferrari against Mark Sampson in the Garage 59 McLaren, who once again has enlisted the services of Marco Pulcini to join him for this weekend. So that surely is going to be a very rapid car. Of course, we have the Teams Championship to sew up as well. Motor Park currently leading the way there. But this is the GT Open 500 at Monza. So it will be 2 qualifying sessions for this weekend. The second qualifying session to come up a little bit later today. And it is the average of the 2 times you set in those sessions that will set the grid for the 500-kilometer race tomorrow, which is a double points race. Not the usual 70 and 60-minute races that we see across the weekend. And we are also looking for our 11th different pole sitter of the season, I believe.
Yeah, we absolutely are. It's going to be one fierce contest. Just further point on the Christopher Haase and Simon Riker obviously becoming the first pairing to go back-to-back in winning the championship. Also, they would be the first combination to actually win more than one championship as well, because obviously we've had the likes of Miguel Ramos, who has won 2 titles. We've had Montemini, who has won 2 titles, and also at the same time, we've had Miguel Ramos up there winning 2 titles at the same time. None of them have won it twice together as a combination. So no, this would be the first time we see that happen.
Yeah, so Montemini won class championship, only 1 overall though. So the second driver who's won multiple overall titles is Joel Kamathas.
Yeah.
Back in 2007, 2009. So it's a very elite group of drivers who've won multiple overall titles.
Well,
in
Miguel
this
Ramos as well.
Yes, and Miguel Ramos, yes. So East Talent also going for their 3rd title in as many years. Of course, they won the Teams Championship their first year in 23, and as the reigning Drivers' Champions as well. and how much pressure is there on for Motor Park as well. In fact, I was catching up with Levente Reves yesterday, and we were reminded of Diego Menchaca's tears in 2023 when he thought he'd won the title, and then was given some rather heartbreaking news that, in fact, actually, they were a point shy. And I've got Motor Park going for their first title in GT3 competition as well. This is where the GT campaign started for a team that's steeped in single-seater success.
It's interesting when you look back, actually, at the Teams Championship side of things. East Talent have actually, based on what they did in the last 2 years in the Teams Championship, joined the club that also include Imperial Racing at the same time, V8 Racing too, and Scuderia Play Team Serra Free. You know, they all went on to win back-to-back titles. They win a pair, and then that's it. You know, obviously East Talent would be, you know, they would have liked to have broken that train, obviously made it 3 in a row, essentially in Teams Championships. They would have been the first team to do that.
Absolutely. So who have we got in this session then? We saw Maxi Gertz aboard the Motor Park Mercedes. So he is not in the championship fight, despite being in the car that's leading the championship, and that is because he's missed 2 rounds, because he is probably the busiest driver in GT racing this year, racing in every corner of the world. Simon Riker here aboard the East Talent Racing Audi, that's second in the championship. Tommaso Mosca taking the wheel of the AF Corsa Ferrari number 51, and AF Corsa going for their first title in the International GT Open, first driver's title anyway, since 2018 when they were running the Lusic Racing outfit. And who's aboard the number 17 as well? Tom Lebon as well. We'll just keep an eye out on that one. But other drivers to keep an eye on in this session as well does include Zach Meakin, the Optimum Motorsports McLaren, Jaden Kelly and James Kell aboard the 2 Greystone McLarens. Of course, it was Josh Ratkin who became the 10th different pole sitter last time out in Barcelona. Who else have we got? A lot of the bronze drivers in for this session, I must say, George. It doesn't necessarily determine who starts the race this session, though. You have until Sunday morning to declare your starting driver. So it's not like in the usual weekends where you do Q1, you start race 1, but because of the endurance format, that doesn't work like that for this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's not you know, a foregone conclusion that we could see perhaps, you know, some changes in terms of who starts, who doesn't, etc. Obviously, I want a word on Josh Ratkin, really, who has really encapsulated the minds of many GT fans across the globe after his truly phenomenal performances that we have seen so far in the International GT Open, and many, of course, that have watched the broadcast that we have pulled together, most notably the Red Bull Ring, for example, but also Barcelona, where we have seen him also pull off some truly remarkable performances. I mean, you know, this is a pairing that could go on to do great things. No question, Rattigan definitely could. I mean, especially after taking 2 podiums so far this campaign, 2 P3 visits already off the back of Barcelona and Red Bull Ring. I mean, you never know we see the thoroughfare of drivers come in, move into factory status, time in, time out. You never know, that could be well in the future of the likes of Josh Rattigan. We saw it with Tom Fleming as well back at Hockenheim alongside Marvin Kirchhofer, who was absolutely astonishing. Tom Leben, though, just losing out purple status in the first 2 sectors, did hold purple initially, just had it stolen by Simon Riker, though, who has gone fastest in the first and second sectors this time, but a great lap certainly in prospect here for Leben to improve as Jim Pla goes first fastest. Leben now steals that top time away with a 1:44.948. Of course, we've already breached a few of the fast free practice times already. The fastest that we have seen, I think, this weekend was brought in by the SBS performance of Valentin Pierberg, Dominic Baumann with a 1:44.569, as now Riker looks to move his way across the line, but can only do 3rd fastest. Losing time in that final sector has now been dropped to 4th, as now we have Max Gertz on top ahead of Tommaso Mosca.
Yeah, I said there were a lot of bronze drivers in this session, George. It's almost all of them. I think Jim Pla is the only pro in the Pro-Am class to actually be taking this session. So everyone's keeping the quick driver for later on, except for the Santalog pairing. And most of the other runners have got, they're saving their quick driver for later on. But we do have Maxi Gertz, Tommaso Mosca up there at the top of the moment. This is Simon Riker being caught up behind the BDR Grupo Prom car. It's Alfredo Hernandez driving it. BDR down to 1 car because they're running 2 cars, but with 1 driver in each, and you have to have a teammate for the endurance races, and so it is Louis Michael Dorbecker who joins Hernandez in the number 77 for this weekend.
Gertz finding green inside that first sector as well, so another personal best for our current P1 sitter here in qualifying. There is Simon Riker making his way down the Seraglio Straight. We've got purple middle sector also for Tommaso Mosca. We'll be interested to see how the Ferrari performs this weekend, as now the car that is going to be driven by championship leader Levente Reves, currently being driven by Maxi Gertz. At the moment, we'll see Reves in qualifying B. That'll be coming up later on, or qualifying 2 that we will be seeing later on, which will, of course, coincide and form together our average pole time.
And Gertz was practically on the grass going down the back straight towards Ascari, trying to get around Hernandez's Mercedes. Mosca losing an awful lot of time in the final sector there. And so that's not an improvement for him. And I imagine for Gertz, this is going to be a bit of a struggle as well when he eventually gets over the timing line. Oh, never mind, ignore me. Goes 7/10 quicker than anyone else. Yellow flags, though, at turn 1, though. What's that about?
James Kell also going 5th fastest in the immediate. Yeah, the raised yellows currently on show by the marshals.
Can't see anything.
No, I mean, it's recording yellow flags on our timing screen as well.
We can physically see them as well. Okay, so it's one of the Lamborghinis. Big double look up at the front end.
That's the 180 of Michael Fischbaum, who was actually fastest, along with Milos Pavlovic in free practice 1.
So it's parked in the escape road at turn 1, but seems to have got moving again now, because the green flags are now showing out there. But that is one of our additional cars for this weekend. One of 3 we have. An extra one from Garage 59, an extra one from AF Corsa as well.
Yeah. We're well stocked ahead of a final weekend here in the International GT Open. Maxi Gertz not improving on this particular lap. In fact, it's going to allow fellow championship contender, the Salent Racing Audi of Simon Riker, take the initial phase. Obviously for Eastern, we'll see Christopher Haase for our second qualifying session later on this afternoon. No improvements either for Simon Riker, but more importantly finds that track position so that he can then go for a flying run, I'm sure, for his next roll around the circuit. We now see personal bests igniting for Tommaso Mosca. He's managed to enlist a 33.4 inside sector 1, 35.3 inside sector 2, significantly better on previous laps already. Certainly not enough, though, to trouble the top time that has been set in motion by Maxi Gertz. It is just over 3 1/4 tenths between the two of them so far, as the combination of Anthony Bartone and what would usually be Fabian Schiller, but there's been a late change there as well at the Getsby team, because in comes Renger van der Zande, Chris, and an exciting teammate to coincide with Anthony Bartone this weekend.
It certainly is. 2016 IMSA champion, 2-time winner of the Rolex 24 at Daytona with Cadillac as well. Was now driving for Acura in the Meyer Shank crew. Just wrapped up his season at Petit Le Mans at last weekend. Hugely exciting to have Renger back in the championship, where his sports car racing career really began when he made the switch over from single-seaters. Was driving the Seyfarth Motorsport SLS AMG, it was, back in 2013. A overall race winner and a multiple class winner as well in this championship. Great to have the Dutchman back with us in this championship, if only for a wildcard appearance, as Fabian Schiller competes in the European Le Mans Series this weekend.
Yeah, Tommaso Mosca once again green inside the first and second sectors. Riker also turning up the heat just a little bit, just doing what's necessary here at this moment in time. If Riker can pull together a decent performance and then also assist then Haase's efforts in our later session, it could provide them with a huge opportunity heading into our mighty 500 race. Of course, the Enduro, as Ralph Aaron goes 3rd. Jim Pla back into 5th fastest now as he drops his car ahead of Tom Leben. And Tom Leben now, in instant response, goes 3rd fastest ahead of Ralph Aaron. And in turn, also Jim Pla as Steve Jans comes into the pit. Still Gertz on top, as now Jaden Kelly goes 4th fastest.
Great effort.
Yeah, fantastic effort. And of course, we'll have the incredible abilities of Josh Rattigan alongside him. Riker with a brilliant improvement goes 3rd fastest. Anthony Bartone up into 12th as well, with Colavita in his first start back. Of course, AF Corsa, you mentioned, coming in with another car as well here on site, and great to have them here as well. Ibrahim Badawi and Leonardo Colavita, another young pairing. And we mentioned about the the development of young drivers coming through GT3 at the moment. The GT Open has played a significant part in that. And once again, we see another fantastic pairing that come in from the Italian GT Championship. Endurance champions as well, the pair of them, reigning endurance champions. Also, last season in 2024, Colavita would go on to take the 2024 title. And even aside from that, Badawi, who will be taking part in our second qualifying session, also winning the Super Trofeo coming second in the Super Trofeo Championship in 2023, does the young man from Cairo in Egypt. Colavita, though, 20-year-old from Rome in Italy. Home circuit, will be hoping to put in a sterling home performance. Ralph Aaron, 2 personal bests here. Following
in the wheel tracks of Tommaso Mosca, and what a incredible first year he's having, was fighting for the championship. So Ralph Aaron, 6th fastest at the moment, and this one puts him 3rd on the 2nd row of the grid. So it is Motor Park, AF Corsa, Get Speed, East Talent, and Elite inside the top 5. Very different mix of manufacturers in there as well. Mercedes, Ferrari, Audi, McLaren, and Lamborghini all represented inside the top 10 as well. Rijker's on a good lap here as well. He is currently 4th fastest, but a personal best in the first sector. We've still got 10 minutes to try and boost those lap times and improve the average. It will be at the end of Q2. We know who is going to be starting on pole position. Ralph Aaron just got into the second chicane. The Della Roggia, just ever so slightly deep. Look how close it is at the top of the field. Only half a tenth of a second between Gertz and Mosca. In the battle for Pro-Am, this is going to be a very important car, the Valentin Pierberg number 20, which is currently 10th in the Pro-Am standings. Meanwhile, Steve Jantz's title rival is up there 2nd, behind only Jim Pla. And I must say, not by much at all, bearing in mind that Jim is a silver class driver. I think Steve used to be classed as a silver driver, but currently a bronze. That's a fantastic effort from the championship leader in the Pro-Am category. In AM as well, worth mentioning, Marco Polcini currently fastest there in 17th position overall in the car that he's sharing with Mark Sampson, fighting for the AM title.
Yeah, you're talking mere fragments between them in the championship race at the moment. It's only a single point in the Pro-Am title race at the moment. If we want to extend it then to the AM classification, we're talking 4 points. Of course, I'm not applying the drop scores when I think about that, though technically you could say we are for the Pro-Am at the moment, because it is only 1 single point when you drop the lowest 2 scoring results that we have seen already this season. But of course, if there is a result of significance here in the 500 as well, that could also play a part in the drop score count, so that can very easily change as we make our way through the course of the weekend.
Yeah, we really only have to think about it if someone has a bit of a shocker, really, and it falls outside the points, because some of them are taking 2 zeros, basically, so that makes life a little bit easier, actually. I must say, everyone's been remarkably consistent this year. Unlike last year, we still had 8 teams in contention, I think, last year, which was ridiculous, and everyone was taking 2 nils in that one as well. But
if you want to talk consistency, you may as well look at Gino Forgione and Michele Rugolo at the moment, and you know, speak of the Devils, here they are now. Forgione on screen, of course, winner of multiple races this season. We can list them out for you. Portimao Race 1, Hockenheim Race 2, Hungaroring Race 1 and 2, Paul Ricard Race 1 and 2, Red Bull Ring Race 2, Barcelona Race 2. It has been a phenomenal campaign for Gino Forgione and Michele Rugolo. Of course, they did have a season's disappointing performance. I would say the more fractured results have really come towards the tail end of the season with Red Bull Ring Race 1 and Barcelona Race 1, where things have gone askew. But remember, handicaps do play a big role where it comes to GT racing inside the International GT Open, of course. Mark Sampson, who will be looking to capitalise here. For him, this is a race of severe significance.
It's only all those wins, and it's only 6 points between the championship.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Incredible
and
stuff.
And it could all turn when we take on the double points race.
Absolutely.
Which is this one.
Absolutely. It's what I love about having the endurance finale. But next year will be the penultimate meeting of the season. We go back to our traditional season finale in Barcelona next year, on with a new race at Misano. Really looking forward to that one as we ride on board with Steve Jans, who's the top bronze driver at the moment in 8th position overall. And a slightly fresh look on that number 6 Get Speed Mercedes. Got a lot of company out there as well. Emir Naran right behind him, who is running with Tom Jackson. As normally comes here and serves as a coach, but actually having to do the official sessions this weekend, because as mentioned earlier, you do have to have a teammate. We also haven't mentioned yet that second car from Tsunami Racing Team as well. They're fielding a second Porsche with Alex Fontana and Bashar Mardini, so the teammates from Car Collection last year being reunited, as Hash focuses more on his business adventures. And this is very close between two of the AM runners, as Emir Naran puts his right hand Michelin's on the grass, trying to get around Alfredo Hernandez.
Close quarter there with the BDR Grupo Prom on the outset of Lesmo 2. As the 67 now pirouettes out of the Rettifilio chicane. That's Leonardo Colavita behind the wheel of the Ferrari 296. It's another representative for AF Corsa in their first weekend, the reigning Italian GT champion. And making his way down through towards the Roger Benz this time. And we're back with Emir Naran, who now also makes his way through, but has to cut the chicane as well. So Colavita obviously will just move swiftly on through, as now we see Steve Jans with a personal best inside the first sector. Tommaso Mosca also with a personal best. Quite impressive here from Steve Jans again, very close to Mosca's time inside Sector 1.
Yeah, the good thing about Sector 1 is there's really only one corner.
Well, that's true.
So the times can often be quite close here. When you look at it, but that's Mosca with a personal best in the first sector. Steve Jans going very well in the first sector as well. It's not a personal best for him, but nonetheless a decent one, as we see Mosca at the top of screen there. There's that Laurent Demeas in that sister AF Corsa car, but there is Tommaso Mosca, who has gone fastest in the middle sector, in fact. So this could be a lap that usurps Maxi Goetz at the head of the order. But remember, it's the average that we're looking for. So at the end of Q2, we'll know, but this is certainly going to help Carl Bennett in his venture. And by just over a quarter of a second, Tommaso Mosca going fastest in the AF Corsa Ferrari.
Yeah, a mighty final sector to go inside with the purple middle. So that displaces Maxi Goetz at the top of the timing screen. But really offers a mighty olive branch for Carl Bennett when he jumps in the car later on to do his qualifying session.
And Jans top in Pro-Am ahead of Jim Pla.
Yeah, also only, well, he's within 7.5 tenths of our current leaders, but now Maxi Goetz are going to respond straight away. He's already managed to muster in purple where Mosca did on his previous lap inside that middle sector. So Goetz looking to respond, and we ride on board with Levente Ravesh's number 11 Motor Park car with Goetz behind the wheel once more. Of course, we mentioned Cairoli also playing his part in Levente Raves's run this season. Goetz now looking to lift the 11 aloft ahead of Tommaso Mosca, as it was prior to Mosca, with that lead advantage and by a short fragment. Unfortunately, losing time, just over 0.2 of a second between them. And Mosca has found a personal best again.
So he only found 200s on that lap then, did Goetz, but Mosca's continuing to improve out there. It was another personal best in the first sector and pretty much matched his middle sector as well. Is he going to get a cheeky toe here from the sister car, Laurent Demeas, which he's sharing with Vincent Abril this weekend rather than Jamie Stanley? But Mosca again through the final corner, currently fastest. Is he going to get held up here by Laurent Demeas? That should just about get away with it, but he's on the headlight button. I know race control come down quite heavily on drivers who overuse the flash, but it's very much needed at the moment as he tries to go even faster. And did we get the time across? It didn't come up on the graphic. A little bit of a delay, and it's another couple of hundredths he managed to find there in the final sector. So the gap back up to quarter of a second.
Yeah, trying to squeeze out every ounce they can. Maxi Goetz not improving inside the first sector. I think he's just going to go for one cool-down run and then go for a fast run, ideally trying to find that track position and ultimately that clear air so that he could potentially land an assault against Mosca in the final stages of this session. But some very tense looks inside the AF Corsa garage at the moment.
Jim Pla taking top honours back in Pro-Am with 6th position overall, and it's only 0.3 of a second now between Marco Polcini and Peter Fullin for the AM competition. Peter Fullin back with us in the Fullin race car in their Audi R8 that we saw back in Hockenheim. And I think in Budapest as well. Simon Riker putting in a decent couple of sectors here, 2 personal bests. Where's this going to put him on the front row provisionally? That is a great effort and only a 1/10 of a second away. And Maxi Goetz still a 1/4 of a second away from Mosca as well. So that is a cracking effort from Simon Riker and much needed.
That could be a lap of much significance here for the Easterland team, because this really puts Christopher Haase very much in the driving seat for his qualifying session later on.
Well, think about that, because like Mosca, Goetz, Aaron, they're all the quicker drivers in that car, or certainly the headline drivers. Now, what are we seeing here with Mosca on the flash? This is when he set that time, and that's the reaction from the, of course, garage engineer, very happy, and team manager Ugo looking a little bit more in disbelief more than anything.
All the phony at Chris, because Goetz is back. He's purple inside the first sector here this time, and we're coming into the final minutes now very shortly to decide where the fate of this first qualifying session goes. Obviously, it all tees up to our second session coming up later on, where we will find out who is going to be fastest in the average times. He's lost a little bit, though, inside that middle sector, but he is still very much in touching distance of a potential P1 visit if he manages to dish out something inside Sector 3. 77 thousandths off the top, where Tommaso Mosca currently operates. We're talking fine margins here, folks, as now the Mercedes-AMG GT3 makes its way down towards Curb Alboreto. Personal bests across the board here for Ralph Aaron. At the same time, a 10th currently stands between Riker and Mosca as Ralph Aaron moves into 4th fastest ahead of Elite Motorsport Ferrari's Tom Leben. As now here comes Goetz, losing time, decides to back out of it, I think, prepare for one final run, because there's still 15, now coming into 10 seconds remaining in this Q1 session.
Yeah, but that's literally all he's got left, isn't it? And he's got relatively clean air. There's a little bit of traffic on the other side of the chicane. But that's one last effort then for Maxi Goetz, if he's got anything left in the tank. Looks like he's still pushing out there. Oh, this might ruin it, though, because the number 19 of Robin Rogalski, the Oregon Lamborghini, has put it in the gravel, and it's at Ascari as well, losing it in the middle of the high-speed chicane. And that surely is going to hamper any attempt of a lap here for Maxi Goetz, or indeed anybody, as Rogalski spun up those rear Michelins, but the Lamborghini is beached.
Well, if you're going to lose it...
And Goetz has gone fastest in the first sector as well. Oh, you cannot make it up, George.
No, it's literally a carbon copy of that previous lap, and as you can see, look again, can he once again muster something, though, this time inside the middle sector?
He's coming up to a yellow flag zone. He can't push through the Ascari chicane.
He's going to be so frustrated with this now, because he is up on his time. He's up on his time still, and while it's not necessarily a middle sector time that's going to hit the headlines of purple, he is still up on the time that has been set in place by Tommaso Mosca. So let's see what happens, as now the train of cars all sit in front.
Oh, they've all had to back out, surely, because you can't improve in a yellow flag zone.
I mean, Riker
was on a really good one there as well. Wow, only a 100th of a second away from Mosca. That is a brilliant, brilliant effort. But yeah, they're cruising round now.
Yeah.
Man, that would have been a real explosive end there, wouldn't it?
Could you imagine the frustration right there? But I mean, it's great news if you're Tommaso Mosca and Carl Bennett. Of course, in the initial phase of qualifying leading through to the GT Open 500, they know that could mean oh so much. But bear in mind, you have got 3 of the title contenders sat in the top 3 places: Mosca, Riker, Goetz, all in this fight. Well, of course, Goetz doing it for Levente Reves, but still same car. And an astonishing qualifying it certainly was. Let's run through the top 3 of qualifying 1. Maxi Goetz, who could have landed a top time come the end of qualifying 1. 30 he'll have to remain in for now, but remember, it all leads through to our second session coming up later on. Simon Riker, second fastest, also putting in a mighty stint as well, and tees things up nicely for Christopher Haase ahead of qualifying 2 later today. But your P1 sitter, it's Tommaso Mosca. They have had a fantastic end to their campaign this year and are still very much in this championship fight. So we'll now run through the classification. It's Tommaso Mosca on top with a 143.791 ahead of Simon Riker. Max Kurtz down in third place, Ralph Aaron in fourth, then Tom Leben, Jaden Kelly in sixth for Greystone GT McLaren, Jim Pla, highest Pro-Am here for Santaloc Racing Audi, Leonardo Colavita in his first start in the International GT Open for AF Corsa in eighth place ahead of Pro-Am P2, Steve Jans, James Kell in 10th as well for Greystone McLaren, the second, 2 Greystones inside the top 10. With Robin Rogalski in 11th, Anthony Bartone in 12th, Libor Milotta in 13th ahead of Artem Petrov, Zatmik in 15th ahead of Bashar Mardini, Marco Polcini leading the AM contingent as well, alongside Mark Sampson, if you remember. Alex West also in 18th place, Valentin Pierberg in 19th, Peter Fullan in 20th place for Full In Race by Interaction. Then there's Marcin Jedlinski in 21st, Heiko Neumann, Johannes Zelga, Antal Zygo, Laurent Demeas, Gino Forgione, then in P2, we have Darren Kell in 27th, Amir Naran 28th, Alfredo Hernandez ahead of Michael Fishbaum as well, who had his own moments earlier on. He finished in 30th place. We then moved down to 31st, where Stanislav Jedlinski nestles in at 153.223. Christian Korzynowski, of course, will take over later on. So that concludes qualifying 1, and it's Tommaso Mosca on top as we look ahead to a qualifying 2 session that will be coming up later today.